Hello everyone. Welcome to Swine Sixture's brand new series, Short Snippets. So today, let's know about what is carbon neutrality. So what exactly is this carbon neutrality? Let's hear about that. So the balance between the emissions and the reduction, or the process of trying to reduce the reduction, is called carbon neutrality. So this carbon neutrality is the major process that we're right now going in. So there has been a lot of carbon emissions in our atmosphere, which leads to the climate change. So that's why today we are discussing about what exactly is this carbon neutrality. I mean, like how we could reduce the carbon emissions in the atmosphere. Well, this carbon neutrality is also called as net zero emissions. I mean, by getting zero of a particular emissions in the greenhouse gas effects. So that makes the carbon emissions in the atmosphere with zero. So as you could see over here, the zero net emissions, well, is reached when all our emissions is defined under carbon footprint are zero. So zero emissions is nothing but getting zero of a particular emission or a particular gas in the greenhouse gases. So we will define this carbon, how much carbon that we have in the atmosphere, with the help of carbon footprint. So what exactly is this carbon footprint? Let's see. So carbon footprint is nothing but the total greenhouse gas emissions caused by an individual or by an event or organization, place, or even through by a product. Like for example, burning of fossil fuels in the name of electricity or in the name of transportation, right? Transportation and manufacturing a product. As we all know, even the electronic products like refrigerators and air conditioners. So these things will actually release carbon emissions into the atmosphere. So a product or the process which was done by the human, even through waste, carbon waste, e-waste, and so much of waste that we do, plastic wastes and everything, which leads to more carbon emissions into the atmosphere. And not only that, we have very less forest area right now, because we have been going through the constant deforestation. So because of that, the greenhouse gases have been increasing. So as you all could see, the emissions and the things that we do to increase these emissions, what are we doing right now? Like electricity, transportation, you know, the remedies that we could do, we could go for recycling, but we do know that recycling was not happening that much right now. We need to increase the recycling process and all. And we have been wasting a lot of you know natural resources, which leads for the greenhouse gases improve, and the fuel and everything. So this is what exactly a carbon footprint. So carbon footprint is nothing but the total greenhouse emissions caused by all these measures. So individual, organization, and everything, which defines the carbon footprint. Well, as we could see, India has been one of the developing countries and the fastest growing economy right now. So India is the third largest, so it is also the third largest emitter of greenhouse gas effects. So whereas an average carbon footprint of an Indian is going to surprise us was 0.56 tons per year. So per individual, like one individual was releasing in and around and 0.56 tons of carbon emissions into the atmosphere. So that is the basic or average Indian carbon footprint that we have right now. So what the measures that we can take to reduce this carbon emissions? Well, the basic things we can do, so save electricity, you know and waste, not wasting water, not wasting electricity, and reducing the products that release carbon emissions into the atmosphere, switching to the LED bulbs. So these are the products that we can do, and many more things we can go up for. And not only that, we can opt for carbon neutrality products where and services like renewable energy, solar panels, and everything, where we could go for natural resources, now renewable energies, instead of going for the regular or the basic electricity kind of a format. So with that we can go for it. And not only that, we can choose the carbon offset as quickly as possible with the measures that could reduce for the carbon emissions. Well, what exactly is this carbon offset? Well, an action intended to compensate, or we need to compensate for the emissions that we are giving into the atmosphere by the opposite ones, by reducing the emissions by doing certain kind of measures. So this is what the balance, as you could see, the balance of emissions and reduction of these emissions that we're sending it into the atmosphere is called carbon offset. So we could reduce the carbon footprint through carbon offset. Carbon offset is nothing but the actions or the plans that we take up to reduce this carbon emissions into the atmosphere. And not only that, we can opt, see, the governments and all the kind of companies where they could opt for renewable energy products, and government and many kind of companies, they could invest their money into the carbon offsets, like planting trees, renewable energy products, and reducing the carbon emissions as possible as they could. And that's how they could go for it. And not only that, the final one is the carbon sequestration options, where we could go for, which is like through a natural or an artificial process, so which carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere and held in any kind of a solid or any kind of a liquid format. Well, as you could see over here, the natural process, which is terrestrial sequestration, or with an artificial process like making the power stations where they could capture carbon dioxide and convert them into the basic things, so that we could go for them. So converting them into the chemical conversions and oil reserves, and converting the artificial process, so or into the liquid format, we could make this is also another kind of a carbon sequestration options. And we all know that the Paris Agreement for climate change, which is also another kind of problem that we are going in as of now. So the Paris Agreement was a very active campaign, was actually conducted by them. It's been since the last 2 years they are conducting this, so that has been going on for the 2 years to get every country to sign on net zero goal. So net zero goal is nothing but to make every country to sign to reduce the carbon emissions in their country at least to 2 degrees Celsius to 3 degrees Celsius by 2050. So this is the basic emissions that we could reduce all of a sudden. So we can't do it everything all of a sudden. So we will take a larger time for reduction of carbon emissions, which will make us to reduce the carbon emissions in the atmosphere. So this is the only way to achieve the target to reduce everything in the atmosphere. So these are the major options that we could go for it. So carbon neutrality, which is nothing but we are trying to reduce the carbon emissions in the atmosphere, and we will understand how the carbon emissions are more in the atmosphere through carbon footprint, and what are the measures that we take. We can go for carbon offsets, like going for renewable energies products, or increasing the forest covers, or another option will be carbon sequestration options, which we're actually following by many of the countries through terrestrial sequestration, or by the capturing of carbon dioxide into the artificial format. So this is how the carbon emissions and everything. So this is about carbon neutrality. So thank you so much. So you could subscribe to our YouTube channel for much more videos, and click the bell icon for the notifications of us. And you could follow us in our social media links, which will be in the description box below. So you could go for our Facebook page, Instagram profile, and you could join in our Telegram channel as well. So that's all for today. Thank you.